The Point Podcast with Matt Mariglia is a production of Spartan Technology. Views expressed in the Point Podcast might not necessarily be those of the Starpoint Central School District. Welcome to the first episode of the Point Podcast with Matt Mariglia. Today's episode, we're going to call it the Fishing Professor, and my special guest today is Mike Luick, who is a 21st century skills teacher in the intermediate building and also the Starpoint Teachers Association president. Mike, thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely.
Excited to be your first guest. Exciting project you're working on.
Inaugural podcast, the Point Podcast. And just for those of you who might be listening for the first time, these episodes highlight personalities and subjects that make up our Starpoint community. Sponsored by Spartan Technology, and you can listen to us on podcasts on YouTube. So that's great. So, Mike, I might have stole some of your thunder, but can you tell me a little bit more about what exactly you do here? What is 21st Century Skills?
What is 21st Century Skills?
Right.
Definitely one of the longest teaching titles in the district, but it encompasses a whole bunch of stuff, I guess the best way to say it. Anything from simple keyboarding skills to some research skills to online safety, proper use of how to be online, digital footprints. We get into coding and robotics, and we are housed in the library, so we're able to do some literature and book circulation with the students as well.
So it's like a one-stop shop for tech, reading.
It is
everything.
A one-stop shop. One
One-stop
It's
shop.
so much I can't even talk about it, man. It's amazing. Let me tell you that.
That's
but
good to know.
A lot goes on. It's a good place to be. We see the kids for 40 minutes a week. There's gym, art, music, and me. I wish I had a whole hour with the students, but we get as much in as we can in 40 minutes.
Awesome. So they use their Chromebooks, inside the library
We have
mostly?
Chromebooks housed inside the library. We do use them often, but not always. If we'll use different technological devices, whether it's iPads or, again, when we get into coding robotics, sometimes those are standalone units that they can code, or they might use the Chromebooks or iPads to create code to download onto those robots to learn how that all works at the basic level, just getting them ready for their experience in the middle school.
So to help people learn about your space, so you said you're contained inside a library, so you have an area where books are contained, but you also have a space like maybe with tables where your students sit and do the coding or robotics or Chromebooks or tech or anything else.
Yes, we're fortunate to have a larger area in the LMC, the Library Media Center, where we can do a lot of different things. I'd love to have a bigger area, but of course, there's just never enough room for the things that we want to do. But it definitely works in a good way for what we're doing.
As a growing district, I'm sure that more space would always be a plus, but not always possible.
Yeah, a teacher will never turn down more space. That's for sure.
Right. So, if you would also talk a little bit about, where you grew up, not like the history of you from kindergarten all the way up to now, but, where did you grow up? Are you local from Western New York?
Sure. Yeah, I'm local. I grew up in Sanborn. Grew up in the house that my parents bought on Hoover Road, so just down the street from Starpoint. Graduated from Niagara Wheatfield in 1990, just a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago. So then, as far as my schooling, let's go back to family. So grew up in that house, one brother, one sister. Let's go right back to schooling. So graduated Niagara Wheatfield. Then I went to University of Buffalo, received a degree from there. And then my goodness, so long ago, I'm forgetting. Then I continued my education at Canisius. I did my student teaching at Starpoint.
Oh, you did?
I did.
I did not know
both placements there. Second grade with Mrs. Arnone. Second grade with Mrs. Conklin. Fifth grade with Mrs. Conklin.
Wow.
And actually, the April of my fifth grade placement, I accepted a job to go down and teach in Florida, which I never thought I would leave this area.
You taught in Florida. I don't know how many people know that.
No. I guess I'll give you a little story there.
Yeah,
so
go right ahead.
I was dating my current wife, Carolyn, Mrs. Luick at the time, and she had her big person job at the time because she had graduated college and she had an opportunity to work at Mount Sinai Hospital down in Miami Beach.
Wow.
She called me on a Friday evening saying, hey, they're offering me this job. What do I do? We had been dating for about 3 years. I'm like, well, geez, you got to take it. And so hung up the phone. And that very next day, I was scheduled to go to the Buffalo Convention Center for a teacher recruitment day. And my plan was...
Many of us have been to those days.
Yeah, my plan was,
days,
hey, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to practice my interviewing skills. Not planning on really taking any jobs there because I wanted to work at either Niagara Wheatfield or Starpoint.
You wanted to stay local.
Yeah, I was just going to go there. I was going to practice. But I'm thinking, okay, I walked in there and I see, I don't know if it was the first table, but it seems like the first table, Broward County, Florida. Teaching jobs. So I went up there, which is just one county up from where she was working, stone throws away. And it was definitely a different time hiring teachers at that time because literally it was under 15 minutes. They handed me a pink flamingo pencil that said "Teach near the beach." So
Teach
here I am.
near the beach.
I was all of 23 years old. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go teach near the beach. I don't know how to teach that. I'm only student taught. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Well, I think I knew what I was doing. But
how long did you last there?
So anyway, let me go back to
go ahead.
I took the job, signed the papers. I went home, told my mom, and she almost fell over because hi mom, I'm
going to Florida.
I'm chasing the
right.
woman I love.
Right.
We're married now. But of course, supportive mom and dad. They supported me. Lasted 2 years down there.
2 years.
We knew we would both come back. So after 1 year, I just started putting applications in, or only at Niagara Wheatfield, only at Starpoint. Those are the only two places that I'm going to go.
You wanted to be in one of those two.
Yeah, and after my second year, that June, I was offered an interview at Starpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew up. I remember spending $800 because it was like, hey, you got to be here on this day for the interview.
Got to buy the flight that's offered.
The interview process is a little bit different back then than it is now. I don't think it lasted more. It was one interview, maybe a half hour.
Mine too.
Panel in front of board members and everything. And before I flew home that evening, I got a call offering me a kindergarten position at Starpoint.
Wow.
So then I flew back home flew back to Florida. I told Carolyn, hey, this happened. And
do you think about if you stayed in Florida, life might be different, or
I don't
maybe
know.
be surfing right now, or
maybe family was definitely very important to Mrs. Luick and myself. So we knew we'd be back eventually. But truth be told, we could have lasted a few more years in Florida. I was brand new school, right by the Everglades. I loved to fish. I would rollerblade during the summer down A1A. It was a good place to be as a 24-year-old professional in the field of education.
Sure. Down in Florida. That's an awesome story. You kind of answered some of the questions I was going to ask you. So at Starpoint, you've been here how long now? How many years have you been at Starpoint?
I have entered my this is starting my 28th year.
28th year. So besides 21st...
starting my 27th year? Goodness, lose track of time.
27. I know. When you get along to so many years, you forget what year you actually been here. Right. So you said that you taught kindergarten when you got hired in kindergarten, but now you're teaching 21st century skills, which is grades 3 to 5, if I'm correct.
Correct.
What other besides kindergarten have you taught here at Starpoint?
So I started kindergarten. I did that for 10 years. The first 3 years were half day, actually.
Half day kindergarten.
Yeah, with nap time and snack.
Yeah.
And, my room was a huge room right by the playground, so we got to the playground every day.
Not as much ELA and math, more snack time and nap time.
Definitely a bigger focus on developmental skills
and
what's appropriate for that age level.
Right.
Obviously, some things have changed. Some for the better, and some definitely debatable as far as what kindergarten looks like at this time. So I did that for 10 years. Then I transferred, I did 3 years in what was called critical thinking pullout at the time, working with small groups of students. And then I transferred back to first grade, where I taught for 10 years in first grade. And now I am entered my 8th year of 21st century skills.
So you've had some steps where you've changed a little bit over time.
Yeah.
That's nice. Not a lot of people have that opportunity.
Yeah,
when
the opportunities were there. I wasn't always
Yeah.
ready for a change, I don't think, professionally, but there were some opportunities, and there's not a lot of opportunities to make a change in education.
Right.
So I took the risk and made the jump.
For those that might be listening that, have been around maybe as long as you have, Did you have a mentor or a teacher that maybe is still here, or retired, that really showed you the ropes, that go-to person that you went to when you had a question? Maybe you had more than one, but was there any kind of, I know you student taught here, so you had those teachers that you mentioned that helped you, but was there any kind of mentor or somebody that...
When I first started, Kathy Barton, kindergarten teacher, retired here for a few years ago. I would say she was my first mentor that took me under the wing, just like a mom at school for me, because I was just starting off. I did have 2 years of first grade under my belt when I started teaching kindergarten, but kindergarten is just a totally different rule. Respect out to all the kindergarten teachers.
Totally. Shout out to them.
Feel everyone should teach kindergarten 1 year. It just makes you a better teacher, stronger person.
Good point.
On many different levels. But I would say it was her. She helped guide me, teach me what really is important in the lives of children. Kind of just like the bigger picture. Helped me stay out of trouble my first year because little story, not major trouble, nothing bad, but had a piano in the room. All right, yes, we had pianos.
Piano in a kindergarten room. I had one as a child.
I could play mean two-finger songs and stuff. But we'd sing a little bit as well. And on the back of the piano, use all your space, I'd put some learning charts up, and I put what I thought would be a great put a song back there about the short A vowel sounds, and the whole song. I can't remember it. I'd sing it for you, Matt, but here we are.
Don't worry, I won't ask you to do it.
It was great. We're singing it. I wish I could remember the song. We're singing it. And a few days after I put it up, I was approached that there's a problem with it that is causing some issues within first grade, because kindergarten does not teach short vowel sounds.
Oh boy.
It's just long vowel, which is, it's just humorous because I think of this in the context of what we're doing now. That it was something that was taught in first grade. Kindergarten, you can do long vowel sounds, but you need to focus more on developmental appropriate things at that time.
Part of some of the holes we step in when we start, we don't know the sensibilities of the people we work around, and that stuff can happen for sure.
Who would have thought that short A song on the back of the piano would
get you in trouble?
I didn't get in trouble, but it was definitely
controversy.
There was a meeting that was had, and everything was ironed out, and everybody survived, and the kids had a great time.
I wonder how many people are still here remember the short A controversy of Mr. Luick teaching kindergarten.
I would say that would be zero right now.
Zero people.
It was half day kindergarten too, which was crazy in a good way.
So those are wow. There's a lot of stuff, and you and I have known each other for quite some time, and there were things in there didn't know that you taught in Florida. Did not know that the short A, and you had a piano in your classroom that you actually
I'm like
played.
An onion, Matt. I'm like an onion.
There's all these layers as you peel.
Big onion, bigger than I used to be.
So the title of this podcast, this episode, is The Fishing Professor. So I also want to know a little bit about things that you're interested in. Obviously, you're interested in fishing. Was this something your father taught you, or your mother taught you, or an uncle taught you? And do you continue to fish now?
Good question. I grew up with a boat on the water. My uncles own their own bait shop in LaSalle area. I know that's where
I grew up.
You're familiar with that. So
sure.
They taught me how to dip crabs, in the Niagara River in a safe way. But how do you know it's a soft shell? How do you not? So I grew up in the Niagara River, learning how to fish that, and always had a boat, and it's been a part of my life. So my kids fish. It was always just a family experience. Of course, as the kids got older, they wanted to be towed behind the boat. And I could only tell them that the boat is not strong enough to tow things for so long. And then we had to
probably saw it on TikTok.
Take a swimming break, on the river, float down the river a little bit. But I still fish to this day. I am boatless at this time. Working through that, but hopefully there is a boat in the near future.
Favorite spot to fish?
Lower Niagara.
Lower Niagara.
Yeah, I grew up in the Upper Niagara, but definitely the Lower Niagara. Between being able to get out in the water, if it's windy, you can get out on the river, and if it's not too bad, you can get out in the lake, and there's just all types of.
So when you had a boat, did you launch from Youngstown, or did you launch from Wilson? Or?
I would usually launch either from Fort Niagara or from
Lewiston. The sand docks. Down by the silo there?
Down by the silo.
The silo in Lewiston, for those of you that are...
way back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, They're much nicer now. Yeah.
It's very high class there.
Yeah. Before we get towards the end, we're going to do a little hit and run, segment where I'm going to ask you some real quick questions, and you're going to give me some quick answers. Is there anything currently you're working on in your life? It doesn't have to be educational related. maybe there's, some paint going up somewhere, or you got something in the garage. Is there anything that you've been working on recently that you might want to share?
Well, there's always school stuff. So,
Yeah.
things that people might not be aware of. As far as our house, we did a lot of adulting this last summer. We put a new sewer line in.
Oh,
Very exciting stuff.
That's
where I am. This is what a 28-year veteran does. And there's summers when they don't have a boat to go out on.
Right.
But so that led to, okay, we have to get new sidewalks. And in that whole process, a couple of trees came down in front of our house, and then some landscaping. So we did a lot of work in the front of the house this summer. Currently growing grass in the front yard. So I'm watering.
I don't know if you know this, fall's the best time to grow grass.
You know what? It's showing in the front yard, and if I need some advice, I know you are very well at
my father could grow
grass seed.
My father could grow grass on concrete.
Yeah,
so.
Grass and mow. Mowing's very important. So, but we had grass first. So it was a little messy in our front yard.
And we should have added this in. You also do a lot with athletics. You did coach wrestling here for a long time, but you do a lot of score clock things for the varsity field, both modified athletics, JV athletics. Soccer, you do a lot of that stuff.
So athletics has been a big part of my life through high school, through college. And then I coached wrestling for 10 years here in the 2000s. And then, as you said, I do a lot of work on the turf field now, just helping out with keeping score.
Rumors
DJing.
floating around that you're a type of Hall of Famer at Wheatfield. You were a Hall of Fame athlete at Wheatfield. Is that
Wait, this
true?
Is a surprise question.
I did do some research here.
Good. Maybe a few weight classes ago, I had a little bit of success.
State championship
football.
Or get in the state finals?
We did okay in wrestling. Yeah,
great. That's good to know.
There might be a few dusty medals somewhere, but so don't make me mad, Mariglia. I'm gonna come take you down. But,
See, I always want to add in a little research. I do my research.
There should be no research on Mike Luick. Who knows what you dig up? Singlets were a little bit different.
Oh, that's great. Well, Mike, those are all. I think. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast was for that reason. There's a lot of things that people don't know about the people that work here. We do talk to each other, but in terms of our community, we might not know the personalities that make up the people that work at Starpoint or work in our community. So that's why I do this. And I'm a fan of a show on the Yes Network called Center Stage with a journalist called Michael Kay. He's also the broadcaster or the announcer for the New York Yankees. And in his Center Stage, he interviews tons of celebrities. I would advise anyone to watch that show. It's musicians, it's actors, it's you name it, and they tell great stories about their life. But at the end, he does a segment called Hit and Run. So I'm shamelessly, giving them credit, but stealing this, where he asks some quick questions, and what you want to do, Mr. Luick, is just answer whatever comes to your mind. And if you can't come up with an answer, just pass and move on to the next one.
How many passes do I get?
None.
Right,
I have.
I'm ready. Fire away, Mariglia.
I have a few. So here's the first one. What would you say, again, first thing coming to your mind, the biggest misconception or mistake about fishing that people have that aren't fishers like myself?
So I just say a word? Or
whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be a word.
Fishing does not equate to catching. You have to put your time in to learn the water, learn the fish, and it makes a difference.
Ooh, see, I'm not a fisher, and I would assume I just get in the boat, cast the line, and the fish bite. But that's not the case.
I love fishing. Kids loved it, but we caught fish. Mrs. Luick loves it too, but she did evolve into, okay, Mike, wake me up when the fish are biting, when you find them. So she would, take a nap, and I would wake her up with the fish.
My father-in-law is a huge fisher, and he calls it a passion of patience.
So it's just nice sometimes to be out there by yourself or with family, away from everybody.
Great. If you had a last meal, if you were going to have a last meal, what would be your favorite meal to have? Like last meal, you can have anything you want, no worry about calories.
One thing?
Well, just a meal.
I would need to go with a good prime rib.
Prime rib.
And a cheesecake.
Oh, cheesecake. Homemade, or is there a specific cheesecake that...
I do not turn down any cheesecake that's put in front of me.
Gotcha. If it's cheesecake, you're taking it.
No, can I give my address to send cheesecake?
Sure. No. With the brownies?
With the brownies, too, of course.
Quickly, toughest thing about teaching. If you could think of something over your career, the toughest thing.
Time management.
Time management. What was the easiest thing about teaching?
Students. I love working with the students. So
love working with
students
kids like that. Now, you mentioned you were a coach. Do you have a favorite moment from coaching? Like maybe an athlete you coached or something that you did as a team that you remember?
At Starpoint?
Anywhere.
Starpoint, we, way back early 2000s, we had a girl wrestle for the team. That was a little controversial at that time. I'm here to support kids, so if they want to do it, we're going to do it. And she actually, we put her in the varsity lineup. We needed somebody. She stepped up. She wanted to do it. Didn't want to put her in a position she wanted to be in. She won her match, and that ended up being part of why we won a league championship.
Wow, that's
because
great.
She pinned her opponent.
And nowadays, how popular female wrestling is right now.
Yeah, it's sanctioned New York State
It's huge
sport.
now.
Yeah.
That's another thing I did not know at all. First car you had, if you can remember the first car you had.
A big green Ford station wagon with brown panels on the side.
Oh, that sounds like
It was a
car.
hand-me-down, but that's what used to happen. You got your parents' oldest car after your brother and sister used it.
So it wasn't new. It was just a car that...
No, 7 miles per gallon.
Love it. 7 miles per gallon.
But I think gas was only
$1.01 or something. Then
Smoking Joe's gas was like
79
80 cents.
Yeah, something like that.
Away.
Yeah.
Right across from high school.
You're sitting at home. It's late at night, maybe 1, 2 in the morning. You're watching sports or whatever you're watching on TV, and you're in your sweats. You're just relaxing. If there's a late night snack that you could have, don't worry about calories or health. It's your go-to late night snack. You hoped it would be in the refrigerator in the cabinet. What would be that late night snack?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm gonna have to go with brownie brittle.
Brownie brittle.
Yeah, I don't have it that much. It's good stuff.
Never had brownie brittle. Mm-hmm. Like peanut brittle, but brownie brittle.
Yeah, I guess it would be the same. It's like all the edges and the side.
Oh wow!
It's
so it's
good
hard.
stuff.
It's crunchy.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Wow, I don't know brownie brittle.
Yeah, it's like popcorn. You just keep popping it in.
All right,
I don't think it's healthy for you.
Only 2 left here. Okay. Only 2, and then we'll finish up. So if someone were to get your phone and get the data off your phone, what would be the most used app on your phone? The one you used. And we're going to take out email and text messages. Those are not going to count. An app on your phone that you use the most.
Okay, well.
That's a tough one.
Oh, okay. It's going to be the weather app.
The weather app?
Yeah, I'm always checking the weather.
You're a weather guy.
Between fishing or is it going to rain so I have to go home and water my grass? Because I'm an old man now.
You're
I gotta water my
adulting.
grass so we can mow the grass because that's what we do.
All right, this one might be the toughest one of all. So you are trapped in a foxhole, and you're in battle, and you can only have one person down in the foxhole with you, living or dead. Who would that be?
My wife, Carolyn Luick.
Your wife
Hands
would be
down.
in the foxhole with you.
Yep.
You get extra brownie
I don't know if
points
she'd
for that.
want to be in there with me, but she'd be like, "How did you even get in this spot to begin with?" But yes, it would be Carolyn. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Hands down.
That's awesome. Well, Mike Luick, Mr. Luick, known by the kids, really appreciate you doing this inaugural episode of the Point Podcast with me. Hopefully it's something that people will learn a little bit about you and you'll become maybe famous from this. I doubt it, but maybe.
I don't know, kind of a big thing with the 8-year-old to 10-year-old.
8-year-old, yeah, you're like
within
the man.
Regan at Starpoint. It's kind of a small box, but I thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to episode 2 and just kind of learning.
Yeah, and I have some feelers out there for some people that are interested. I've been talking to some different people. It's not anything. I want to make it variety. I want to go Fricano, high school administrators, maybe somebody from the PTA that might want to come in and sit down and talk a little bit about themselves. Just want people to get to know each other. And the one thing I am good at is talking. We know that, right?
I have heard that. I have heard that. But you're a good person, good friend. I appreciate you having me on.
Anytime. Thanks so much, Mike. And thank you for joining us on the Point Podcast. Hopefully you'll join us next time. The Point Podcast with Matt Mariglia is a production of Spartan Technology. All views expressed on the podcast might not necessarily be those of Starpoint Central School District. Listen to more episodes on podcasts on